Living with zest. That's how Jose Villa describes the life he and Marie are living. Jose and Marie are truly a force, individually and together. They are both former journalists who created the Hawaii Hispanic newspaper. They both had separate grant writing careers. She's a former journalism professor. He was a sergeant in the Air Force. And now together, they are the people behind Villa Business Consulting. Marie was born in Mexico, moved to the US as a child, and never finished high school. She worked as a maid at a hotel where her employer learned she was bilingual and taught her bookkeeping and accounting. Remember I said earlier that she was also a journalism professor. In fact, she was a professor at both St. John Fisher College and Hawaii Pacific University. All of this happened after she decided to go to college at 38 years old. Jose, who many also called Papi, was born in mainland United States to a Puerto Rican family and grew up in Spanish Harlem. Interestingly, they both ended up in Hawaii. He's been there for 37 years and she's lived in Hawaii for 35 years. That's where they met, became friends, and got married, and of course launched Villa Business Consulting, where they serve nonprofits by providing grant writing services, which has resulted in $15 million in grants in just the last 2 years, and serving businesses by writing business plans, over 150 by the way, and helping them achieve minority business certification. They are truly a force in their communities. Both have served as president of the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce in Hawaii, and both have received numerous awards and recognition. Check out this episode of the Age Has No Limit podcast to hear about this amazing couple, Jose and Marie Villa of Oahu, Hawaii. You learn about their travel adventures in Japan, where they rode on Air Force cargo planes to 2 cities, their stay in the Ice Hotel in Quebec, Canada, and most recently in Alaska, where they stayed in an Hawaii-inspired cabin, went dog sledding 2 times, and a few other stories you'll definitely enjoy. You'll also learn how they met, the amazing impact they've had as business consultants and successful grant writers, and how they love serving as an example for their family and friends. They truly embody the no limit life. Continue listening to the podcast. You'll smile, laugh, and you will definitely be inspired by their lives. It's the Age Has No Limit podcast. We're here to show and prove that your age shouldn't prevent you from designing and living the life you want. I'm your host, Patrice Davis. Let's get started. Welcome back to the Age Has No Limit podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. I am here with Jose and Marie Villa of Villa Business Consulting, and I'm so excited that they have decided to join us and tell us a little bit about themselves, about their companies, and how they are living an age has no limit life, or age has no limit lives. So we'll start with you, Marie. Please tell me, one of the things that I've learned about the two of you is that you are both different in several ways, right? So you're both from different, both have different backgrounds, but you still are able to let your professional and personal lives work really well for you. Tell us a little bit about where you're from and how you think that adds to how you're able to make your professional and personal lives mesh really well.
Oh, thank you for having us, first of all.
Yes.
I was born in Mexico, came to the United States when we were 5, and grew up in Los Angeles. I moved to Hawaii almost 35 years ago. And I'll tell you that how we've been able to work with each other is because we were friends before we got married or started dating. And we used to work together and as friends. And through the years, we've had many businesses together, and I should say it's the same business throughout it's always been writing, right? So we've been able to together work out our professionalism, and we know where our professional starts and where our personal begins, and vice versa. When, we're downstairs, as husband and wife, we're downstairs, we're having dinner or, watching the news or whatever. But when we're upstairs and we have to know that, hey, we have to keep it professional, working. This is what we do. And it's been easy, honestly, because we've been working together 27 years.
Wow, wow. And so you're from Mexico, and Jose, I know you go by Papi, but we're going to go ahead and call you Jose. You are from, tell us a little bit about your background.
Well, my parents are from Puerto Rico. I was the first one in the family to be born on the mainland, and I was born in Spanish Harlem, back in the hood, 116th and Park Avenue, which then it used to be a Puerto Rican neighborhood. So just about everybody in the community, the Latinos, the Jewish, the African Americans, just about everybody spoke some Spanish. But it was a Puerto Rican neighborhood. I went to high school there in the city, and then my family moved up to the South Bronx. So I spent my teen years in the South Bronx. I joined the Air Force at 17 and spent 23 years in the Air Force. And that allowed me to travel around the world and go to many places that I had read about when I was a kid in Spanish Harlem. And then I've been in Hawaii since 1986.
Wow.
So about 37 years.
Ah, wonderful, wonderful. I wish I was in Hawaii for that long. About that. Thank you so much. I appreciate that information, just to help us understand a little bit about your backgrounds. And one of the things I realize is, we really want people to know exactly what you do. So Via Business Consulting, you all met as friends. You all worked in writing. You had different, writing careers. I believe you were both journalists. And at some point, you all became a couple. And then, of course, it eventually started Via Business Consulting. Please tell us, and let's make sure that this is part of the early part of our discussion, what you do at Via Business Consulting.
I am the CEO of Via Business Consulting. We have two parts to our business. I'm going to talk about one part, and I'm going to let him talk about the other part. The first part is we help small businesses with their certifications, their women-owned small business certification, their WBE, Women Business Enterprise, their veteran-owned small business, their veteran business enterprise, the minority. So we help minority women and veterans get their certification so they can go after government, federal government, and corporate contracts that are set aside for those people or those businesses that have the certification. We help with the SAM registration, and we help them. We guide them through, their capability statement. We guide them through how to go about getting those contracts.
Great. And so that's Via Business. And then, of course, your role, if you could tell us a little bit about your role, Jose, that would be really, fantastic.
Okay. And I would just add that on our small business side, we've also done 150 business plans.
Yeah, wow.
So if you can think of an industry, we've probably written a business plan for it.
Yeah.
And matter of fact, we're writing a couple of business plans right now.
Wow.
And I think it's also important to note that Via Business Consulting is actually a mom and pop business. We're actually mommy and poppy. So
I love that.
it's just us. But as Marty mentioned, you mentioned, we were both former journalists. We published a newspaper for 9 years here called the Hawaii Hispanic News, and so we're both publishers and editors. So we were already writing, and for the time that we've been together, we're doing a lot of side hustles. We're doing the certifications, we're doing grant writing, we're doing business plans, and then back in 2016 is when we just kind of brought them all together and started our company. But back to your point, on our nonprofit side, we create nonprofits, we do the 501c3 applications, we do grant readiness so their organizations can get ready to get grants. We then do grant writing. This past November 22nd, we submitted 9 $200,000 proposals for our clients. That was 9 different proposals. Right now we're doing a 500,000, a 200,000, a 20K that are due January 8th. And then the state GIA, the state grant and aid, just came out this morning.
Mm-hmm.
And that's due January 19th. So we keep our hands in a lot of different pots.
Mm-hmm.
We also do grant management on for the grants that we do, like the post-award grant management
Mm-hmm.
for our clients that they get awarded.
Mm-hmm.
We do the SAM registration for those
Mm-hmm.
nonprofits that want to go after federal grants.
Mm-hmm.
We do technical assistance to teach nonprofits how to be nonprofits and have a solid foundation when they start, because we find so many people that have a good heart, have a passion, they're in the best situation in their communities to make a difference.
Mm-hmm.
They start a nonprofit, but they don't know anything about the nonprofit world.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, in our minority communities that we deal with, our Latino community, our Black community, our Native Hawaiian communities,
Mm-hmm.
our folks have the talent and the passion,
Yeah.
but they don't have the knowledge of how
Mm-hmm.
the system works.
Yeah.
So the people that are in the best position to make a difference get stymied, or their product is mediocre at best, or eventually they just burn out because, and so what Mari and I try to do is be advocates for them,
Mm-hmm.
and teach them how the system works,
Yes.
so that they can be successful, whether it's a nonprofit or a for-profit. We are the advocates, and that's something that we love doing.
Yeah, yeah. I'm so glad you brought that up. And I didn't plan on us talking about this, but I do think this is something that's really good to explore, because there may be small business owners or persons who are executive directors of an emerging nonprofit, or who want to start a nonprofit. And I think this is an important part of the discussion. I myself, of course, have worked with a lot of organizations, or familiar with a lot of organizations. As you said, they have their heart is in the right place. They really are driven to do what it is that they have said that they want to do, either with their business or with their nonprofit. But as you said, there's, they may not have that knowledge of the system. So I'm really, really glad that you all exist to be able to provide that service and help them understand, what needs to be put in place in order to even apply for a grant. Are you ready to apply for a grant? And now that you have the grant, you are there to help them with their post-award management. So you guys are really, really a great resource for your community. Now, one of the things that I also found really interesting, and you both have very, very diverse career backgrounds. I know that, Jose, you were also an executive director at a nonprofit, so you really understand how nonprofits work and operate. And I know that, Marie, you are, is it a CPA or an accountant? I know you have a financial background. So you all are able to take this knowledge and really, really help communities. Can you tell us a little bit about your role, Marie, as a with your finance background, and how that was a part of your early career? And of course, Jose, if you can share more about your experience with nonprofits, and would love to hear that.
Well, Patrice, I'll give you a little bit of background. I never went to high school.
Mm-hmm.
I had children very young age,
Mm-hmm.
and I started working. My first job was at a hotel as a maid, and when they found out I was bilingual,
Mm-hmm.
they started teaching me how to do accounting before computers came along.
Wow.
And so I learned how to do everything accounting
Mm-hmm.
before computers. So when computers came along, it was very easy for me. And so I just became kind of a full charge bookkeeper, accountant person.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I was 38, I went to college, and now I have 4 degrees.
Mm-hmm.
One of them is in business management.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't need it, but I wanted it because I wanted to have the degree behind what we do.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but almost all my degrees are in journalism.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went from an accounting person to journalist to journalism professor eventually for 8 years.
Mm-hmm.
And then we took all of that and are able to use it for our business now.
Mm-hmm.
I handle the accounting portion of the grants.
Mm-hmm.
When somebody's going, okay, let's do your budget for this grant. What, 500,000. What are we going to use it for? I'm the person that goes, yeah, that's not realistic. They're not going to give you money for that. Let's use it somewhere else. So it allows me to be able to give advice to our clients so that they make a good, solid uh, budget for their grants so that they can get funded.
Yeah.
In the last couple of years, we've been able to secure, a little over 15 million for in government grants for our nonprofits, our clients. And we've done it by being able to use our strength. I do that portion, the budget narrative. I grab all the paperwork they need. I make sure they have everything. And then I pass it to my other half, where without him, we wouldn't be anywhere because he's the writer. Papi.
Mr.
Yeah,
Wright.
thanks. So, and what happens again? There's a story that Marie should tell is why she wanted to become a journalist. We were already doing the newspaper, but she had an event happen in Atlanta that I think is a good story for her to tell.
Okay, well, yes. The reason I went to college at all, but it was a week after 9/11, and we went to Atlanta, Georgia, and we passed by this building that said CNN. I said, "Ooh, what does somebody have to do to work there?"
Yeah.
So we go walk in there, and they find out that we're from Hawaii. So they put us on the news. They actually interviewed us on the news. So when we got back, people were like, "Oh my God, I saw you guys on CNN," right? Because they wanted to compare Pearl Harbor to what happened in 9/11. And of course, there was no comparison, but that is what made me want to go to college. And here I am.
Yeah, wow. That is
So-
an interesting story. Go right
So
ahead.
for someone who did not go to high school
Yes.
to have become a college professor,
Yes.
CNN was pivotal. And we were just in Atlanta last October. And one of the things we did is we went back to the CNN building.
CNN, yep.
That is fantastic. Of course, so for those of you who are listening, we have partnered, and, Jose and I have worked together on projects before. And, of course, have always worked with, we've worked with Marie in some cases as well on those same projects. And I never knew any of that. And of course, I probably wouldn't, but that is an amazing story. You didn't go to high school. They happened to learn you were bilingual. They gave you the opportunity to learn accounting, and bookkeeping and all the related activities. And then you use that, and, before you knew it, you ended up you went to CNN, and that's when you decided to go to and get your first degree. Is that correct?
Yep.
Wow.
And then my I was about to graduate, and I kept a 4.0. I mean, I was really serious because Bobby was like, "That's all you're gonna do is go to college?" Yes. But I took 6 classes every semester.
Wow.
My last semester, I took 8 classes.
Yeah. Wow.
It brought my GPA down from 4.0 to 3.8. And I graduated with honors. But then the semester before I graduated, they're like, "You gotta go get your GED. You can't graduate without this."
Wow.
And I will tell you that I passed my GED, of course, but had I not gone to college, there's no way I would have passed my GED.
Yeah.
You don't know what you don't know until you know it, right?
Exactly. That is a fantastic story.
But I have not only did I have a wonderful family that backed me up, but my husband who said, "Okay, you go do that."
Yeah.
And then all my other degrees, I got them while I was working full time online. And
Well, they say that, students, especially students, those of us who are a little seasoned, have some work experience, have some life experience. When we're in college, we're so much more focused. I can't cite a study, but I do know that after I had my son, the first couple of years in college, I did my work, but after I had my son and had some life experience, and had some, was really, much more focused on what I was trying to accomplish, you couldn't stop me. So I can understand the point of view, but I don't think I ever took 6 classes. I don't think I ever did. So I know I didn't also take 8 classes. So my hat's off to you for accomplishing all of that. And now the two of you are the owner of this amazing business, and the impact that you all are having in the community is amazing. I think I remember seeing Jose, that you guys have actually been, you guys have won some awards and some notoriety for the services that you're providing. Isn't that correct? And if so, do you mind telling us some of the awards and some of the recognition you've had?
Sure. And if you don't mind, if I could just step back a little bit and
Sure.
kind of tell you how I got here.
Yeah. Yes.
Because I was a sergeant in the Air Force. I joined the Air Force at 17. I was a sergeant in the Air Force, and I'd been in 7 years. And I would see officers that I'd say, I'm smarter than that guy. If he could be an officer, I can be an officer. So I was going to school at night while on active duty. And then the Air Force had a program where if you can complete your bachelor's degree in 1 year, they would relieve you of duty. You just go to school full time. And at the end of that, you go to officer training school. So I was accepted to Rutgers in New Jersey, and also Rider, which is just outside of Trenton. Rider's the public school, and I decided to go there. But I come in with a program where I could pick up 51 credits in 11 months, right? So the dean of the school interviewed me and said, well, I have some concerns about you being here with this program. And I said, well, sir, if it's the 51 credits, I assure you I can do that. He says, no, that's not it. We have very few Black people at this school. And I just don't know if you'd be able to adjust. I said, well, sir, let's see, I just spent 18 months in Pakistan riding camels.
Yeah.
And I spent 2 years in a immersion program for a Chinese Mandarin in Taiwan. So is your concern whether I'll be able to get along with middle-class teenagers? Is that your concern, sir?
Yeah.
He signed the paper and I went to school and I did the 51 credits and became an officer.
Wow.
But anyway, I've always enjoyed English. And when I was really fat when I was a kid and wasn't able to, the fellows didn't accept me to kind of play sports. So I was always reading. I was always at the library. I was the kid that grabbed the 8 books and took them home to read them and that kind of thing. I always loved English. And when I ran across a word that I didn't know, I'd go and look it up, find out what it meant. And I used to use the old thesauruses, where you look up the synonyms and things. Back when they were like that, right? So I've always loved English. So when Maddie and I were here, and there was salsa had hit the scene here pretty hard in the early 90s. And we'd have like maybe 3 or 4 DJs, and there was one night when we had 3 salsa dances on the same night. And I said, that is so dumb. If we got 3 DJs, we should have them spread out so that we can all go to each of them, because if each of the DJs is making money, they're going to keep having the dances. So I decided to start. It was just a 1-pager that I said, this is all the Hispanic community events that I know of that are happening. And I sent it to all the Hispanic leaders that I knew of. I said, if you tell me what's happening that is going on, I'll put it in this little newsletter. It was just a one pager, and I'll send it around to everybody so we all know what's going on. And that evolved into a 4-pager and an 8-pager newsletter, and eventually became actually a 4-page newspaper. Wow. And ultimately, Maddie and I were publishing a 28-page full-color newspaper called the Hawaii Hispanic News. And for a period, we did it bilingually, so it was English and Spanish. So we were just writing. Maddie is a whiz with the graphics and the design of ads, and she's probably the most networking person I know. She knows everybody loves her, that kind of thing. So we were doing that, and then so when we looked at everything that we were doing in 2016. I was the grant writer for the Pearl Harbor Aviation Museum. Maddie was the grant writer for the Honolulu YWCA. And we said, why don't we just do what we do and bring in all those side hustles, And as it turned out, it worked out well for us because now we work out of our home and usually a t-shirt and shorts,
Yes.
uh, I'm a word person, so I do the narratives. Mari's a numbers person, as she said before. So she does the budget narrative and the attachments, and she also hits the submit button.
Mm-hmm.
That way, we control the entire process.
Yeah,
Before we submit, we trade. Mari edits my narratives.
Mhm.
I edit her budgets and her budget narratives. So that way, we have a couple of set of eyes that look. But so even though we're both grant writers, we have our own lane that we pretty much stay in.
Hmm. There's so much to pick from everything that you both just shared. And that's one of the reasons why I love hosting the Age Has No Limit podcast. So, Jose, I don't even know where to begin, but I do want to definitely start with what I think stuck out the most to me. And it's that, number one, you pursued 51 credits in an 11-month period. So hats off to you for doing that. And that's very similar to what Marie did when she was in school. Number two, you made it very, very clear that not only were you're actually more than experienced, more than prepared to take on the challenge that was laid out for you. Thank you, and you handled it in a very, in a fantastic way. And then from there, as you said, took something that you saw needed to happen in the Hispanic community, which was to make sure that people were very aware what was happening in terms of events, and all of that one pager turned into, I think you said, a 28-page newsletter.
28 page, yeah.
How did it move from New York to Hawaii? I would love to learn a little bit more about that.
Okay. Well, we were actually in Hawaii when we started the
one pager.
Yeah, because
okay.
we were here,
Mm-hmm.
and then when Mari joined me, and then together we just kept building, because the funny thing was, people, when one day somebody called in, she says, I read this article you guys wrote, and I was like, you read it? You actually read it? It was like, I don't know why, it just seemed like it was such a shock. And then that's when Marty and I realized that we had to really be, careful and be aware of, like genders and ethnic groups and races and sexuality, all those kinds of things. We really had to be careful about what we wrote, because people were actually
reading it
and taking action on things that we were saying. Marty, you want to follow up?
Oh, and the fun thing was, honestly, about being a journalist is you get invited to things that you wouldn't, that you wouldn't do it. I just wanted to, I wanted to add that, talk about age limit. I just wanted to share that Jose and I are 17 years apart.
Yeah.
We're 17 years apart. We didn't care what age we were when we started what. I was 38 when I started college. He started the newspaper at an older age also. And when we met, we met through our Hispanic community, our Chamber of Commerce. I was volunteering doing accounting for them, and he came in and he was doing the publicity for the Chamber of Commerce. So, and together we came together and I said, hey, I want to help you. I just said, I want to help you. We were friends, and I want to help. And we didn't care what. And then when I started working at the journalism portion, I really wanted a career in that. I've always wanted something like that. And so when I saw CNN, and I said, oh, this is it. This is the time for me to start. And it is limitless. Do I want to go get a PhD? I do. I'll be 60 next year.
Yeah.
And I would love to go get a PhD. Is it time right now? No, I'm really focused on our business and making it grow. We actually started our business full time in 2019, and we wanted to do it because we wanted to travel.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we did. We went to Japan. I went to Japan for the first time. I loved it in 2019. We went to New York City. We go to New York City almost annually.
Mhm.
And then 2020 happened. We couldn't go anywhere, not even to the beaches here.
Wow, not even to the beaches in Hawaii? You
Yep.
guys couldn't? I didn't
They
know that.
Mm-mm.
Well,
they
I
closed the
guess,
beaches.
yeah, because people are, that means that everybody would be there and would defeat the purpose of, yeah, definitely get that.
Because we go to the beaches as a family,
Yeah, yeah.
and then there's people next to us
Mm-hmm.
because the sand is available to everybody, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point.
And one of the things I'd like to cover, because Madi was a professor
Mhm.
for 4 years up in Rochester, New York,
Mhm.
and it was the school was 95% white.
Mm.
The
Mhm.
faculty was 95% white,
Wow.
and Madi was one of the few non-white professors.
Mhm.
And so her office, she had this 4-room office, and a lot of students would just come and hang out in her office. She was in charge of the office of the school newspaper.
Yes.
When she got there, she had 4 people on her staff.
Mm.
When she left, she had 40
Oh, wow.
students
Wow.
on her staff.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
she'd get, I mean, the Latino students, the Asian students, the African American students,
Mhm.
they all come and hung out in her office. And she said,
Yeah.
"Hey, have you guys heard of Campus Center?" And they said, "No, we like it here."
Mhm.
So she got them, bean bags, and made the place really comfortable for the staff. But sweetie, talk about how you built that team.
So yes, when I first got there, I there were like 4 kids. There were 5 kids, and one of them got suspended or kicked out of school like a week later.
Mhm.
The editor-in-chief, and I said, "Oh, what am I gonna do?"
The editor.
So
Okay.
yeah, so I was like, "Oh." So I had 4 students. I recruited an editor-in-chief,
Mhm.
and then I built the media.
Mhm.
I built it so into a realistic newspaper.
Mhm.
Excuse me. So what I did is I got an accounting students to do the accounting.
Mhm. Mhm.
I got the marketing students to do the advertising sales.
Mhm. Mhm.
And then I got the kids that wanted to do more video news
Mhm.
to do that,
Yeah.
social media news to do that.
Mhm.
And then the writers, the photographers, the videographers, the on the scene type of an interview. So eventually I grew it into 40 students to have an actual agency.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I will tell you that it was I always say it was one of the best gigs I ever had. I
Yeah.
loved being around them. They taught me a lot. I taught them a lot. And it's funny because in Hawaii, we have our idiosyncrasies of, if there's a hole, we call it a puka.
Yeah.
So I would come over to the newspaper and I go, "Hey, why is there's a puka, a big puka over here?" Then they were like, "What?" "Yeah, there's a big hole." And
Mhm.
then eventually they'd come to me and go, "Mari, somebody
Mhm.
left a big puka in the sports section, like, little things like that
Yeah.
that they picked up on because it doesn't come natural for me to say there's a hole
Yeah.
after being here so many years, A
Mhm.
hole is a puka, no
Yeah.
matter, and hence the puka shells, because
Mhm.
those shells have a puka in the middle, right? There's a little hole in the middle.
Yeah.
And it's like, so, so it's so funny. And I'll tell you, till this day,
Mhm.
Trees, we get invited to
Yeah.
weddings every year.
Yeah.
Every year. We
Yeah.
went to a wedding in Arizona.
Mhm.
And
And
October.
you don't know you don't know how you affect people. And like when somebody would say, "Oh, do you know the bride or the groom?" I said, "Oh, we know the girl." Right? And they're like, "Oh, how do you know Greg?" I said, "Oh, he was one of my students. What I used to be with. Oh, I heard of you. Man, you're the one who kept him at college. You're the one who made him graduate." I said, "Yeah."
Wow. Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
everybody we spoke to would say, "Oh, we've heard of you." And
Mm.
on the day before his wedding,
Mhm.
what do grooms normally do? They have a bachelor party, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, he had a bachelor party at our room because he knocks on the door and he goes, "What are you doing here?" He goes, "I'm here to spend the evening with you guys."
Oh,
And
wow.
his best friend in college was there too, and he was my student as well. So he was already in our room having
Yeah.
a drink with us.
Yeah.
And so we actually spent the evening with those two
Yeah.
and before his wedding.
That is an amazing
Yep.
story. I'm sure some
Yep.
of their questions centered around how you all have been able to make it work. Yes, to find out how things are going with you and get some updates on you, Marie, from having worked with you, but probably they were probably also picking your brains. I don't know, but I know that's what I would do.
They do.
Yeah,
Well,
that's
see,
what I.
and I'd say
Mhm.
about 100 of her former students
Yeah.
are still friends with her on social media.
Oh, wow.
They
Wow.
still contact her for, I mean, we get wedding invitations,
Mhm.
birth invitations.
Mhm.
Um, and, she's a kind of professor with those students still come to her for advice.
Yeah.
So the students have actually become friends.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and that's kind of the point that I want to get to. And I do want to give one example that stood out for me.
Mhm.
Um, there was one student, he was a black guy,
Mhm.
big guy. I mean, refrigerator type, played football.
Mhm. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the name was Carey, and he was
Mhm.
from Buffalo.
Mhm.
And one day he came up to me, and whenever he saw me, he would just pick me up. How you doing, Poppy? I said, put me down. This is embarrassing. But he would always do it, and I would always love it.
Mhm.
And he said, Poppy, you know what I like about Mari? I
Mhm.
said, no, what's that? He said, she taught me that I'm a good writer.
Oh, yeah.
Nobody ever told me.
Yeah.
Nobody ever told me that I was a good writer.
Yeah.
So you know what? Now I don't just want to play football.
Yeah.
I want to be a sports journalist.
Yeah.
And I know that I'm good enough.
Yeah. Wow.
So he graduated
Yeah.
and got a job in Buffalo as a sports journalist.
I love it.
I mean,
Yeah.
she was that kind of professor
Yeah.
that just inspired and continues to inspire. And I just
And I
want
will
to
tell
I just
you,
want to give her a little shout out because
thank
she
you.
is special.
Yeah.
And ironically, Kyrie
Mm-hmm.
now has my job at the university as the
Oh,
media advisor.
oh, wow. I love it. Isn't that, what is that? Full circle?
Yes.
That is
Mhm.
amazing.
Yes.
Now I see a little bit more Jose, because Jose and I are on Facebook, and so he shares some of his life, and he's always sharing a little peek into his family life, and of course I'm learning about Maris through his posts. So I now understand just how much how much you've not just impacted him and your relationship, but so many other people, and that's it's kind of interesting. It's the name of this podcast is Age Has No Limit. I think that you both individually have made such an impact on the people in your life, and certainly in your communities. I had no idea that newspaper started from a one pager all the way up to now 28. Well, I'm not sure if it's still in circulation.
No,
20
it's not now.
So
Yeah.
here's my question, because I want to make sure that the audience understands, because I also want to understand the timeline. So you all lived your lives separately, it sounds like. At some point, of course, you started you were from New York, Poppy, Jose.
Yeah.
Marie, you came to the States when you were 5. I don't recall what state you said you were from. At
LA,
what
Los Angeles.
LA. Okay. At what point did you all meet in Hawaii? Like, I think, Jose, I remember you said that you were stationed in Hawaii at some point. Is that correct? And that's how
Yes.
you
Yeah.
Hawaii?
I had already retired, and so in
Oh,
1997, I had met Mari through, she said, like the Hispanic Chamber. In
mhm.
1997, there was a restaurant here called Compadres. It was a
Yes.
Mexican restaurant,
Mm-hmm.
and there they used to have an annual chili cook-off.
Yeah.
And in 1987, it was September 14th.
Mm-hmm.
They called us, and they picked some people to be judges for this chili contest.
Mm-hmm.
So we were at the restaurant Sunday morning,
Mm-hmm.
and the judges, and then we got this briefing from the owner. He says, "Okay, you see all these staff members here today? They are your slaves.
Mm-hmm.
Every time you raise your hand,
Mm-hmm.
they will bring you a margarita." And we said, "Oh, we're gonna love this job, right?" So anyway,
Mm-hmm.
I was in we were at the contest, and now we were judging, and someone tapped me on the shoulder, and I turned around, and the sun was behind me, and I saw the most beautiful eyes that I had ever seen in my life. And those eyes belonged to Mari. And I
Yes.
said, "Oh my God." And we were at it. That was it from that day on, September 14th, 1997.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we became a couple that day.
Mm-hmm.
And to my credit,
Mm-hmm.
I still have the apron that they gave me, and I also kept the girl.
Oh,
Kept the apron and kept the
and
girl.
kept the girl. I love it. I love it. I love it. Now,
Patrice, I just want to say, Patrice,
yeah,
you can't
yeah,
see it, and you can never see it through Zoom, but my
yeah.
eyes are actually hazel. They're like hazel greens, hazel brown, depending on what I'm wearing,
Yeah.
but they're very hazel,
Mm-hmm.
especially in the sun. You can see it, but they never, on Zoom, it always looks dark. So it's like, you
Yeah.
can't tell, but
And then the
Yeah.
other
that's
thing,
why.
going back to your age difference,
Mm-hmm.
you know, when we first got together in 1997,
Mm-hmm.
you know, Marty was a single mom of 4 kids,
Mm-hmm.
so
Yeah.
she was used to being in charge,
Yeah.
and I was an Air Force officer, so I was used to being in charge. You
Yes.
know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I always remember we'd go like to a restaurant, and I'd
Mm-hmm.
open the door, and she
Mm-hmm.
would just stand there, and I'm hello,
Yeah.
you know, because she wasn't used to having someone open the door for her.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, so
Yeah.
we had those little quirks that we just kind of we had to go through, and then we're both native Spanish speakers,
Yeah.
right? But I'm Puerto Rican and she's Mexican,
Yeah.
so some of the words are different. So
Ah.
so one day she said, "Sweetie, did you want me to make you some coffee?" And
Mm-hmm.
then I said, "No, ahorita, later."
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then like 5 minutes
I'm
later, she gave me a
thinking,
cup of
no,
coffee.
and I
She
think,
brings me,
how rude, ahorita. All right, I'll get
yeah,
it now, right?
yeah. So
Because
she brings
ahorita
me a
means
cup of
right this
coffee.
minute.
I said,
Ah.
"What are you doing?" And she says, "I brought you a cup of coffee." I said, "No, I said later. No, you said right now. And I thought you were really rude when you said that." I said, "Well, ahorita means later." She says, "No,
Uh-huh.
it doesn't. Ahorita means right now." So we were kind of had to deal with some of those issues as well,
Mm-hmm.
because of
Wow.
our Spanish,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But again, 17 years difference. We're essentially almost we're different generations.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm at the beginning of the baby boomers,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
she's at the end. So we're like the bookends
Yeah.
of the baby.
Yeah.
Um, and some of our friends that we knew when we first got together, they told us, recently that they actually bet money that we wouldn't last because we
Wow.
were so different, and now we're saying, God, I wish we would have taken some of those bets.
I know.
Yeah, I would have totally.
That
Because
is,
here we
yeah,
are 27 years
years
later,
later. Wow. Wow. 27
and
years. Yeah. That's
27. We have 16 grandchildren and 8 great grandchildren.
wow. 16 wow. 16 grandchildren and 8 great grandchildren. Wow. Fantastic.
And the 8 great grandchildren are only from 3 of the 16 grandchildren.
Oh, wow.
yeah.
Wow.
So
So
Wow.
we should be expecting a whole bunch of grandchildren, not anytime soon, though. Grandkids.
So those are all fantastic stories. Again, individually, you guys have accomplished so much. Now to bring all of that energy together, and all that expertise and all of that knowledge into Via Business Consulting. And as you said, I think you said $15 million in
in
grant
the
funding.
last 2 years.
Yes, in the last 2 years, just in the last 2 years, $50 million in grant funding, numerous probably contracts from the companies that you helped get their, women-owned small business, DBE, and some of the other, I forgot what the term is, certification.
Sure.
Yeah, and then helping them build their capability statements. All of these things are hard services to find. So, I'm sure the community is very, very glad that you're there and able to provide those services for them. Now, are there 1 to 2 client experiences that you found the most, I won't say the most rewarding, but really helped you understand the impact of what you're doing?
Yeah,
we,
I can do one. I was the executive director of Habitat for Humanity here, Honolulu Habitat for Humanity, for 3.5 years. And one of the things that I did, I went to bid on a 45 home subdivision. And so when I went to the orientation meeting, and the other construction people that I knew, they said, "Jose, what are you doing here?" "I'm here for the orientation for that 45 home build." And they said, "How many homes you build last year?" "3." "How many are you building this year?" 3.
Mm-hmm.
And you think you can do 45 next year?
Mm-hmm.
I said, yeah. And they
Mm-hmm.
all started laughing,
Yeah. Wow.
you know? And I said, well, I said, you can laugh if you want to,
Mm-hmm.
but the fact that I built 3 houses last year
Yeah.
only means that I built 3 houses last year.
Yeah.
It's not an
Yeah.
indication of ability or potential or anything.
Mm-hmm.
But I got the last laugh because I got the contract for the 45 homes
I love it.
because my nonprofit, Habitat for Humanity, I
Yeah.
partnered with a for-profit
Mm-hmm.
that had the experience of building the 45 homes.
Yes.
And together, we got the contract to build the 45 homes.
Yeah.
For one reason, primarily, I had all the labor in the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I have Navy captains, aircraft carrier captains calling me and saying, Jose, I got 5,000 sailors.
Yeah.
You got anything for them to do to help the
Yes.
community? Right?
That's your volunteer. That's your pool of volunteers. Oh my
I
God.
got the labor in the world,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
with the experience from our partner,
Yeah.
that one, and we've got several more that we could tell you. But Marty, how about the YWCA, the EWOC
Mm-hmm.
that you
Yes.
took to them?
So I was the grant writer at the YWCA, and then they have a program, you know, to help somebody open up a business and everything like that. And the more I worked with them, that's when we decided to go full time. And so I left, and the Council for Native Hawaiian Advancement was our client at the time,
Mm-hmm.
and there was a grant out there to
Mm-hmm.
help women get certified and you know, help women in their business
Mm-hmm.
of color. I should say it was women of color.
Mm-hmm.
So it was EWOC. It was, what is it?
Enterprising Women of Color.
Women of color. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that was EWOC.
Mm-hmm.
And anyway, so I took it to them because they're our client. And I said, okay, and you know, they were like, no, we're not interested.
Mm.
And I said, okay. I said, well, I'm going to take it to YWCA, but you have to support them as well. And they're like, okay, because I've used both of them to support each other on grants.
Mm-hmm.
And so
If I may, the Minority Business Development Agency
Mm-hmm.
was offering 3 $1 million grants in the nation to help women of color grow the capacity of their businesses.
Mm.
There was only
so
3.
when I took it to them, they're like, there's only 3. I said,
Mm.
but Hawaii is a minority state.
Yeah.
You know, the minority is the majority, I said.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
75% of the people in Hawaii are minorities.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So I said, so they said yes.
Mm-hmm.
And then we said, okay, we helped them write it,
Mm-hmm.
or, you know, and then they hired us to teach the classes on certifications.
Mm-hmm.
And I will tell you, when we first started in 2019, there were 14 women-owned businesses in Hawaii. That was
Wow.
it.
Wow.
14
Across
out of
all the
44.
islands. Across all the
Yes.
islands?
The state.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
State.
Across the state.
Yes.
In the state. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the entire state. Out of
Wow.
44,000 plus women-owned businesses, only 14 were.
Okay, got it.
And I will tell you, at this point right now, there's over 40 that have been certified now.
Wow. Wow.
And I'm working with
Mhm.
4 of them right now to help them get certified.
Good. Excellent.
And what happened with the Minority Business Development Agency,
Mm-hmm.
where they were giving out 3 grants,
Yeah.
but you know, like Marty said, the first client said, no, it's only 3 opportunities. She
Mhm.
took it to the YWCA and they said, wow, 3 chances to get $1 million,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
So we wrote the curriculum, and then the MBDA actually gave out 5 $1 million contract or grants, and the YWCA got one of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, because they believed,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right?
And they got extended another year for 500,000.
Wow.
Yeah, so they wound up getting 1.5 million
Mm-hmm.
because they believed, while the other client that was just as qualified said, you know.
Yeah.
So again, you know, the thing about us being advocates,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and just try to convince people. And one of the things that we see all the time, whether it's on the nonprofit or for-profit side,
Mm-hmm.
our ethnic entities, we don't know how good we are.
Yeah. Huh.
We
Yeah.
don't know how good we are.
Yeah.
And what Marty, the $50 million that we brought in, including that 1.5 million for the YWCA,
Yeah.
you know, we told people that they were good enough to get these grants
Absolutely.
and
Yeah.
convinced them. And the result is we brought in 15 million
Yeah.
for in government grants, federal, state, and city
Yeah.
for Hawaii nonprofits, because we believed and we convinced them that they had a shot.
Ah, wow. Wow. Wow.
One of the things, Patrice, wanted to share also with that is when we did the classes with the YWCA,
Mm-hmm.
we opened it up to everybody on the mainland,
Mm-hmm.
Alaska,
Mm-hmm.
Guam, American Samoa,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Those classes were on Zoom, and we had people from all over our country on those classes.
Yeah. Wow.
You know, one of the funny thing is our classes were started at 11 p.m. to 1 a.m. East Coast time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and we had students from Florida, from Georgia, from New York, where the class starts at 11 p.m.
Michigan, from everywhere.
Yeah.
It was crazy, but
Yeah.
it was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Wow. That is amazing. One of the things that I'm learning from you is that, again, you both had very interesting careers. Of course, Marie, you as a professor, and some of the other roles that you've had, and of course, you know, you're, I would say, multifaceted career as well, Jose. How would you say that being an entrepreneur has enriched your life? You know, what are some of the things that you can say? You know, you can definitely point to entrepreneurship being that spark.
I'd say that we've had some other businesses that, you know, we didn't, it's not that it didn't succeed, that we just said, oh, okay, we're just gonna go get regular jobs. But this has really gotten us to the point where we're like, we're never gonna work for anybody again. This is exactly where we are, where we're supposed to be, because entrepreneurship gives you the opportunity to make or break your life, honestly.
Yeah. Yes.
And so, and when we first started full time, and we both quit our jobs at the same time, and I was like, what are we thinking? You know,
Yeah.
like what? I'm like grabbing him by the throat. What are we thinking? And then he says, you got to have faith in us. And I did. And my first client on March 1st was a woman that was very well known here in Hawaii. Unfortunately, she passed away this year. And but she was my very first client, and everybody knew this one. And I say, you know, I say everybody, but a lot of the business entrepreneurs in town here on Oahu and probably the neighbor islands knew who she was. Very well known. And when she called me, she goes, hey, the government's telling me I have to get certified. She goes, is that what you do? I said, that's what I do. Come to my office. Let's make an appointment. Let's do it. And right there, she signed the check here. She said, take care of it. And that's when I said, we're doing good things for people.
Yes.
And as an entrepreneur, we can have a job selling retail. We can have other services. But I think what we do in comparison really to what we get paid, in comparison to what we bring them, is so much different.
Yeah.
And we help businesses grow, whether you're a nonprofit or a for-profit.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're doing it so that you can grow. Like I said, Council of Native Hawaiian Advancement, one of the clients, they had 7 employees. By the time we told them that they need their own grant writer, that's because they had 40. Now they have 70. I mean, the whole idea is, so yes, we would love to be your grant writers until you really need an in-house person.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Absolutely.
And we have some very large clients too, that we write grants, 1 or 2 here for them, that they're like, hey, let's outsource it to the Villas, right? But we're helping people. And as an entrepreneur, I would tell you that that's the most satisfying when they get the grant. We're like so happy. I mean, none of that money comes to us, but we're just happy that we finally got them or something, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Jose, anything to add to that?
No, I think what I enjoy is the freedom. You know, I'm able to work when I want to work during like what's the best time for me to work. I like to get up at 4:30 in the morning. My mind is really sharp, and that's like my most creative time. You know, so I can work there. I can take a break anytime I want during the afternoon. I can continue the rest of the day, and sometimes I go right into the evening. I have the freedom to do that. We also work Saturdays, Sundays, whatever our clients need. Like we're going to be working right through this weekend, because the grants that we're doing. But it's I think it also satisfies kind of like a creative side of me. I have my undergraduates in marketing. I love to sell, and Mari is also, like I said, she's the best networker that I know. And I mean that in all honesty. And we can bring that kind of like that business, sales, marketing, and promotional experience to nonprofits. And help them see what they're doing in a different way. For example, when I was working at the Aviation Museum, they focus on aviation-related STEM. So anything to do with aviation and aerodynamics. But we also have a client that are the outrigger canoe folks that essentially, when we looked at what they do, they're teaching kids ocean-related STEM. They teach them how to build a canoe. That involves math. It involves science. It involves engineering. It involves STEM. And like the ancient Hawaiians, they used to use celestial navigation. That's, so we can bring our perspective of having worked with so many different nonprofits and then look at a project and say, you guys should consider doing this or looking at it this way. And that, because we're both very, I guess, creative in that way. And we can bring that creativity to help folks. And then, so now you're saying, guys, you are good enough to do this. And in our small business certifications on here on Oahu, there are 3 Whole Food stores, large Whole Food stores. The cleaning contract for those 3 stores is several $1 million. To clean those stores every day is several $1 million. And yet the contract is held by a woman in Phoenix, because she's a woman-owned janitorial. She's certified as a janitorial company. We got companies here that can clean those stores. But they're not certified. And they're good enough so that's where our advocacy is. It's not only saying you are good enough, let's go do this, let's get those contracts that are here in Hawaii. And at the same time, looking at a nonprofit or for-profit and saying, you guys should consider doing this to help you grow or to help you, achieve your mission. So
that's why
I think go ahead.
I was just saying that's why we're business consultants, because that's why we call ourselves business consulting, because all facets of businesses, when somebody wants to create a business or, wants to do all the paperwork, they come to us for that. But what I wanted to add about the freedom of entrepreneurship is we're caregivers to my sister who's autistic. And she has doctor's appointments. Right? So it gives me the freedom to take some time off and, do our grocery shopping during the day when it's not busy. Take her to the doctors. Go do this during the day. That, I'm not gonna lie, go get my nails done, in the early morning so that I don't have to waste the rest of the day. But these are the kind of things that we allow us to do as entrepreneurs.
Absolutely.
And the other thing that I like, I was in a situation where my executive director called me in one day and wanted me to know how disappointed she was that I hadn't got a $5,000 grant.
Wow.
And she wanted me to know how disappointed she was. So 2 weeks later, her secretary calls me and she says, Jose, do you want a copy of the grant letter? I said, what grant letter? And she said, for the $300,000 grant that you got.
I love it.
That's when and you say, and as an employee, you're kind of stuck with situations like that. And, and then sometimes you wake up in the morning, look in the mirror and you just say, you just kind of dread going in to work, and yet now as entrepreneurs, if our business does really well on something, it was us.
Yeah.
If we do really bad on something, which occurs very rarely, it was us. So it's all us, good or bad, it's us. And we've been incredibly fortunate. I know, like, the first year when we started our company, by the end of the year, we had matched both of our previous salaries, working at home in shorts and t-shirts. Then the next year in 2020, we actually doubled our revenue in 2020. Because people got real selective about where they were going to spend, like, their nonprofit dollars.
But there was a lot of
also
grants
because Marty and I have been here so long, so many people know us, and we were both presidents of our Hispanic Chambers of Commerce. So, we do a lot of networking with the other chambers. We have exhibitors booths. We do a lot of networking, and it pays off for us because a lot of people get to see what we do. And I mean, like I said, Marty spends a lot of her time networking, and it pays off for us.
So I remember that you shared with me that one of the reasons that you started the business was because you wanted to travel. And I remember you said that you've been able to go to Japan. I know about some of the trips, the recent trip to Atlanta to revisit the CNN Center, and of course, trips to, some of your former students' weddings. Any other places that you've been since you've started the business that are real standouts for you? And
Alaska.
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 Yeah.
This year we went to Alaska.
Like,
so I love the snow.
and
when we were leaving Rochester, so what would happen is I'd work in Rochester for the school year, and then we'd come home during the summer. So in 2016, that's when we came back and said, hey, we're going to come back full time. And I said, okay, but you got to promise me that you'll take me to the cold once a year, right? Annually. And so we normally go to New York City for our anniversary, which is in December, which is beautiful because New York City in Christmas time is the best, right? It just has so many. We've seen the Rockettes, we've seen it. And so last year was the first year in a long time that we didn't go. And so what we did is we planned a trip to Alaska. So we went to Alaska for 10 days, and we stayed at this little cabin that was owned by a guy here in Hawaii that was actually Hawaiian themed, the whole thing. And he even had macadamia chocolate nuts for us there. And this big old surfboard in front and everything when you come in. And it's called Hale Kolea. And I wanted to say the reason why, because Hale means home. And Kolea is the bird that travels back and forth to Alaska and Hawaii. They only go back to Hawaii and they go back and forth.
Interesting.
So we stayed there and we went dog sledding. Not once, but twice. We went snowmobiling for hours, it seemed like.
30 miles.
And then we just got to relax, work, because we work no matter where we go. I remember when we went to Japan, it rained for 2 days, so we stayed in for 2 days and just worked the whole time. And we did the same. It snowed for 3 days. We just stayed in and cozied up, got some time to read a book because we both like to read, right? Read a book, but for the most part, we both worked. And that was, to me, one of the best trips that we loved it so much. We're going back in February.
Yeah.
Cool. How about for you? Is Alaska your favorite trip as well?
Oh yeah, I would say yes. It was, because there were so many experiences, so many things that we'd never seen. That we got to experience. One of the things that I didn't realize is when we went on a 30-mile tandem snowmobile, was that in Alaska they use the rivers. When they freeze over, and then they use them for transporting goods in snowmobiles, like even construction materials.
Wow.
So you see a snowmobile that has like several carts behind it, and they'll be transporting it. And then in the summertime, they use boats the same way.
Wow.
So
Wow.
the rivers are like they're highways.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and I had just never seen that. I'd never thought of something like that being, and then the rivers, there's actually there's you know, like one lane going north and one lane going south,
Mhm.
and people stick to that. And it was really interesting watching how that works.
Mhm.
We had the snow was up to our windowsill,
Mm.
and it was incredible amount of snow, and there was a Friday night, and we realized that we didn't have enough wine to make it through the weekend. so when we found the nearest wine store was 30 miles from us. So there was a snow blizzard. So
Yeah.
we drove 30 miles through a snow blizzard to get to a wine store we get some wine. And as it turned out, tell her the rest of the story.
And it turned out the owner was from the Big Island.
Oh, I love it.
He had just moved from
Yeah.
Hawaii.
Yeah, he just moved from Hawaii,
Oh, my
living
God.
off grid and everything. But you know, one of the things that happen when we travel is we don't just, you know, go to enjoy ourselves, but we really like to like get involved. We went to a community event
Mhm.
that we just wanted to see how they live.
Mhm. Mhm.
We almost become you know, we want to see the lifestyle. We
Mhm.
want to look at their and not just the tourist part,
Yeah.
right? But really enjoy to see how people live outside of how we live.
Yeah.
And we do that with all of these different places that we go to,
Mm.
not just Alaska, but Japan. And I mean, when we go to California, when we go to, you know, anywhere,
Mhm.
we
I,
like to be part of the community.
I was just gonna tell when we went to Tokyo,
Mhm.
and you know, and Tokyo has a lot of smog,
Mhm.
and you know, like between April and October. You know, and
Mhm.
I mean, I lived there for 7 years
Mm.
with the military, but so in Tokyo, because there is so much smog, and they have a lot of those little motor scooters.
Mhm.
The drivers wear these masks.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, so here we are, and this is with 2019.
2019, April.
2019. So Marty says, "Hey, why don't we pick up some of those cool masks to take home?" And I said, "Don't be ridiculous. When would we ever wear a mask back in the States?" And a couple of months later,
A year later, here we are wearing
I was
those
like,
masks. I
"Oh,
looked at him, I said, I told you they have some really
I
good masks
told you."
over there. He said,
I love it. So in other words, you didn't do what she suggested,
No,
and then
I didn't.
yeah.
You know,
I'll say.
and I think more than anything, Patrice, is we love the adventures.
Mhm.
We
Yeah.
both love, and let's go do something that we've never done.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
we're both willing to experiment and try and look. And when we went dog sledding, you know, we didn't realize how rough it was going to be. And we were dog sledding to this pristine snow-covered forest that was just incredibly beautiful.
Yeah.
And at one point, I was the musher, you know, the person that's standing up, and Marty was in the seating position, and the sled dogs took us on a hard left,
Yeah.
and I flew off to the right. So the
Oh,
sled went one way, and I went the other. And the professional musher who was standing behind me, he
yeah.
said, "Hey, are you hurt?" I said, "Only my pride."
You know,
Patrice, I
felt
try
like
to capture everything. I try to
whole
capture everything on video. I wish I would
yeah.
have captured that one.
Oh my God, it was so funny. And then when we got to another place where we had actually tipped over the snowmobile.
oh
So we
wow.
said, "Oh, that's okay. Let's just get off it, and then we'll ride it."
Yeah.
But as soon as we got off, the snow was up to our waist.
Oh my God.
We didn't realize that would happen. So we're, you know,
We're
when you're in the
climbing
snow
out.
up to your waist,
Yeah.
you can't walk.
Yeah. Wow.
You know, so
Yeah.
we had to crawl back through the snow to get to the snowmobile so we could ride it.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, you know, we just had so many things that happen to us that we can just laugh about, and it's just another adventure.
And this actually ties into my final question because, you know, my final question is, what does an age has no limit life look like to you? But I think you've just explained it to me. You've been explaining it to me for the past hour. You guys have never lived within these limitations that others have said, you're not supposed to go to college at 38. You're not supposed to be, all of these things that you've done. You're not supposed to be pursuing 51 credits in 1 year. All of these things to me are examples of how you've both lived individually and together an age has no limit life. But I still want to ask the question, because I always ask this of our guests: what does an age has no limit look like to you? And I'll start with you, Marie.
Well, I would say it looks like we do now. One of the things that it isn't just about how we live our lives, but also how our grandchildren look at us. And I say grandchildren because our children already have their careers, but they also look at us as, once my kids leave the house, I want to live like you guys.
Yeah.
So we encourage them to take a chance.
Yeah.
That's what I think we do as the grandparents, because this is the Christmas house. Everybody comes for Christmas here. And then we sit around and we talk about, what are you guys doing next year? Because my daughter, like, what are you guys gonna do next year? And stuff and things like that. So, and we encourage them.
Yeah.
So, like, we have a grandson who is in Maryland now. He's at Fort Meade. And, we were talking the other day and he says, abuelita, which means grandma in Spanish, by the way. He goes, abuelita, I remember when you and abuelito were here in DC and you guys went to do this and this and this. He goes, oh, I really want to do that. And he says, so now they're encouraged to see what we've seen.
Yes. Yeah. Love that.
So when they're out, I encourage, I took my granddaughter to San Francisco, and now she goes back to go see all kinds of different things. So we encourage, our grandson-in-law and our granddaughter said to us, hey, you two, we want to go to New York City. We've never been, but we want to go with the experts. We want to go with you two. Now we're going to get to travel with our granddaughter and her husband.
Yeah.
So that's what it looks like to me.
Yeah.
It isn't just for us, but for them to go, hey, we want to do it.
Yeah.
Good example.
Yeah, that's a
Bobby.
good.
Yeah, totally. It's and like mine says, the beauty is that our kids look at us and say, we want to be like that.
Yeah.
We want to essentially have no limits.
Yeah.
We got on an Air Force cargo plane and rode that plane to Okinawa, and then stayed overnight and rode another Air Force plane the next day to Tokyo.
Wow.
And it was the Air Force cargo plane, which is, it's just full of cargo, and it was an adventure.
There was no class there.
Yeah, and we had the web seats, and we had a sleeping bag and things so once we were airborne, we were able to just lay on the floor and go to sleep, and everything but it was an adventure. It was just, so Marty and I loved to do that and just look at what's possible. Now when we go back to Alaska, we're looking at taking the train from Anchorage to Fairbanks, and it's the train that has the glass windows. And it's a 12-hour train ride one way, and just to see and enjoy and see what else is out there. I'm 75 years old. If not now, when?
Absolutely.
And I thank God that I'm healthy enough. Marty and I walk 3 miles every morning.
Wow.
To stay in shape, and by staying in shape, it helps us do a lot of adventures because physically we can do it.
Yeah.
So I think we also serve as role models for some other people that are our age.
Yeah.
After we went on the Alaska trip and we put it on Facebook, so many of our friends have said, wow, and they've gone to Alaska, you know, because we kind of opened that portal and say, hey, some of them said, you know, we never thought about going to Alaska, but
Yeah.
we saw what you guys did, and you know, so it's that you know, I guess just living with zest,
Yeah.
you know,
Yes.
just having that joy, and then like for us, it's what's the next adventure? What else are we gonna do?
Yeah.
You know what else is out there that we haven't done? I mean, we spent the night in the ice hotel in Quebec, Canada. You
Mm.
know, froze our butts off, but it was an adventure. You know, I mean, and we had a great time doing it. You know,
Yeah.
so it's living with that, you know, with that joy of life. You know.
And
Yes.
also, I think that, Trees, one of the things that we really have pride ourselves in is doing the right thing.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
We believe in karma,
Yeah. Yeah.
and God has blessed us.
Mhm.
But we really do the right thing. We give back. We say, oh, here, this is what we need to do, and we pay it forward. So we don't just take and do our business, because I always say, hey, I'm in business to make money, and so should every other entrepreneur. I'm not ashamed of that. But I also think that you have to give back to the community as
Yeah.
part of what you do for the community. It
Yeah.
isn't just about I make money and have a business. No, it's about the whole thing. So as we get older, we realize more and more how the need is for people, and even, you know, young couples that are having kids and these kind of things, that and we, you know, give to the tree, that, you know, the Shriners Hospital, give to those kind of things, Toys for Tots. You know, we do all that because of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I am so thankful again. And, I say that all the time, but I really mean it every single time when I thank a person for their time or anything that I appreciate that they've done, that they've, given. And in this case, again, I want to thank you both for the time. I really, really sincerely enjoyed learning about your really, really interesting lives. Um, and not just your lives again separately together as a couple, but of course the ways that you are able to influence people throughout your community with the services you provide, with the community building you did when before you even launched your business, and just the way that you are serving the community now and being an example, not just for the people that may follow you on social media, but as you said, being a great example for your family, for your grandchildren, so that they see, you can actually live a life without limits. You've been doing it, both of you separately, for decades. So together, you guys are an absolute force, not just personally or in terms of it being, living adventurous lives, but certainly a force in terms of your businesses, in terms of your business. So, this has been a wonderful opportunity learning about both of you. For those of you who want to know more about Jose and Marie's business via business consulting, can you please share your website and, of course, any social media handles that you want to share?
Our website is www.villa, VILLA-BC.com.
That's it.
And
Yep.
all our social media is on there as well.
Mhm.
And our contact information is there.
Yeah. And while you guys are there, you'll learn even more information about them. We didn't even scratch the surface of the things that, the things that we can learn about them, the things that they've actually accomplished in their lives. So thank you all for listening to the Age Has No Limit podcast. Thanks once again to our guests, Jose Villa.
Thank you for having us.
Oh, and thank you so much, Patrice.
You're welcome.
Thank you,
You're welcome.
Patrice, for having us.
Thank you. Well, you guys, thank you for your time, and thank you for listening to the Age Has No Limit podcast. And as I always say, age has no limit.